Alright, the Dharmakaya in under 5 minutes. And yes, I'm going to need all 5 minutes for this topic. And for those of you that don't know, this channel is more of a challenge of me to myself on whether or not I can be brief. It's not a dumbed down channel at all, because what's going to happen is, by me being brief, I'm going to have to leave some things out. Which is why maybe I was long-winded on my main channel, and still will be long-winded on my main channel. That's for a reason. And this video will probably make that clear. So what is the Dharmakaya? Well, when I use that word, what I'm referring to is the same thing that most monotheists are referring to when they refer to God. Except, I'm not referring to any of the fucking stories, any of the silliness, any of the history that was involved in creating that concept. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you look at where do we get the idea of the one God from? We get it through a historical development of theism. From, you had monotheism, well actually monotheism is the end point. Before that you had henotheism, which was one God ascendant over all the other gods. Then some genius realized, wait a minute, you don't need all these other gods, you just need the one God. But before that you had pantheons of gods, and before that you had tribal gods and ancestral gods. And actually this development mirrors the development of culture of human beings. As above, so below. Or in this case, as below, so above. We create our gods out of our imagination. That's why they're always tied to stories. You cannot have gods without myths. But you can have Dharmakaya without myth. And that's what Dharmakaya is. Dharmakaya is the source of reality without any mythic structure whatsoever. Because at that level, and this is what a lot of the monotheists fail to realize, and why their religions are ultimately fail on the mega level, is that once you get to that level, it can either be the arche of the Greeks, or it can be the logos of the, oh, that would be the Greeks too now, wouldn't it? It would be the ratio of the Latins, etc. This principle, a unifying principle of the world, in which we're attempting to understand what is, and this is what the earliest philosophers in Greece were trying to answer. They're trying to answer the question, what is the arche? What is the principle from which all other things are derived? And Aristotle eventually answered it as being. It is existence itself, which is where we get the term metaphysics from. That was Aristotle's philosophy of being. So anyway, Dharmakaya, first and foremost, is the answer to that question without having any labels attached on top of it insofar as culture is concerned, because culture operates at a lower level. To take those cultural labels and icons and then transmute them up here to the level of Dharmakaya is where theism fails. That's why I'm not a theist. But it's why I'm not an atheist too, in that I accept the reality of Dharmakaya. Now what reality do I accept? Generally when I try to analogize this to people, or break it down, or point to it, because that's really all you can do, you can't describe it in fact, is I use mathematics. And what I say is, let's say we wanted to create the entire stream of numbers out of nothing. How would we do that? Well, we would allow that for every one number that you had, like if you had the number 1, you could have another number that was just like the 1, except when you added it to the 1, it canceled it out. And if you look at the number line, this actually becomes very clear. The number line is essentially, if you take everything that's on the left of the 0, and then everything that's on the right of the 0, and add that together, meaning add the entire number line together, what you get is 0. 0, as the Dharmakaya, as a mathematical type of the Dharmakaya, allows all particular expressions through possibility, meaning they are possible in the 0, but they're not actualized until they become separate from the 0, or until they become finitized, or limited, demarcated, broken down into subsets. Then once you get those subsets, you get phenomenal reality, which is where you can see part of the thing but not the whole thing. Because if you saw the whole thing, you'd be seeing the 0, you wouldn't be seeing anything, you would be in Dharmakaya, which you could not be, because Dharmakaya transcends existence even. So again, like I said, this channel ain't going to be like the dumbed down version. It's going to be the, you got to think a little bit more version to get what I'm fucking saying. So anyway, Dharmakaya in under 5 minutes. I fucking tried this fucking shit 4 times. I think I'm going to keep this one. It ain't great, but you know, it'll have to do.